Stacy Ziarko. I'm the president and CEO of the Sterling Heights Regional Chamber of Commerce. Today I'm here with Luke Bonner, the City of Sterling Heights Senior Economic Development Advisor, Steve Couchman from Live Picture Productions, and Clint St. Mosley from State Farm Insurance. And Clint, you and I have talked often over the last couple of months. There's some big changes coming to Michigan in what seemed like a long time. Now it'll be here in less than 2 months. So can you share with us and our members and our viewers a little bit about what we can expect come July 2nd?
Yeah, absolutely, Stacy. Thanks for having me. And like I said, this law was passed last May, and it felt like there was so much time before we had to make these changes and come to these selections. But it really is fundamental change that is being introduced to Michigan. So we really haven't had changes like this since the 70s. So a lot of people have heard about auto insurance and how high it is. We are a no-fault state. So just kind of giving some background, we are a no-fault state, which what that means to everyone is that if you're in an auto accident, your insurance company is going to take care of your auto based on your selections and coverages, and my insurance company is going to take care of mine. That's still staying the same in most parts. We're still going to be a no-fault state. The unique thing to Michigan is we were in an unlimited personal injury protection, or PIP state, which what that means if you were in an auto accident and you sustained injuries, and even 20 years later you still had injuries, those injuries were still going to be covered by that auto insurance plan. Okay, so that is you're still going to have the option to maintain that coverage, but you're going to have more choice. So one of the biggest things that came about in the law is consumer choice. So I'll tell you a little bit about that and kind of what that looks like for customers. So if you want to maintain unlimited medical, you still can. So if you still want the unlimited personal injury protection, you're still worried about being in an auto accident and having that coverage, catastrophic coverage especially, you still can maintain that. The great thing about that is built into the law are rate reductions. So even if you keep that unlimited medical, your rate is going to go down on that portion of your auto insurance. So again, especially here in Southeast Michigan, we hear a lot about rates. We hear a lot about, into Detroit, into Southeast Michigan, some of the highest rates in the country. So our legislatures and governors and mayors, they wanted to really give customers choices. So that's one of the things this bill provides. Okay. There's also some things that help out with. There's a fee that you pay, every customer pays. It's called a Michigan Catastrophic Claims Association fee. It's being reduced. Okay, it may be reduced down to zero. So depending on the selections you make, you may be able to totally opt out of that fee. So in years past, that fee had gotten up to $220 per year per car. And effective with this new law, the new fee is $100, and it could be zero depending on the selections you choose. Does that make sense?
Does. Sorry, I'm writing down my questions, actually.
You're good. So I just wanted to make sure. So, let's talk a little bit about what's involved in your auto policy. Many people know this, but just to make sure. So, the one thing is protecting your car, right? Collision, comprehensive. If you're involved in an auto accident, you want to make sure your auto insurer is fixing your car, right? That's important to everyone. The second thing that's a huge part is called bodily injury. So this is if you cause bodily harm or damage to others, all right? So think about, I'm going down Metro Parkway and I slide on some water, slide on some ice. I hit somebody, injure or kill them. That's the portion of your policy that is going to help with a lawsuit or any damages to others that I cause. Now, this is a big thing that's changing with the new law. The state minimums were, for the longest time, $20,000 and $40,000, which means if there was, if I hit someone, Stacy, unfortunately, I hit you, and you're the only person in the car, my policy was going to pay up to $20,000 worth of damages. All right. After that, if I had other assets, they could be subject to be at risk, right? If I caused a $100,000 injury to you, my insurance policy was only $20,000. I'm responsible for the other $80,000. So one of the biggest things that's changing is the state realizes that we need to update these numbers for inflation, bring them up to today's cost. And there's also some changes with the personal injury that's going to require, there's going to be more risk, right? People are not going to have, everyone's not going to have that unlimited medical that we had in the past. So it's going to be really important for, others to make sure we're protecting that bodily injury and that liability reasons, okay? So now the state is requiring that by default, if you don't do anything, the new minimums are going to be 250, 500,000. Okay, so it's going from 20,000, 40,000 to 250,000, 500,000. So that's a big change. All right, so on the medical side, we have some cost savings. On the liability side, depending on what you're already paying, what you already selected, you could have an area where your prices increase on that part of your auto insurance. So you want to talk to your agent, talk to your insurance company, make sure you're making the right selections for you and your family and your assets. But that part is changing. So we've got the collision part is taking care of your damages to your car, the bodily injuries protecting you from lawsuit. And then lastly, we have the personal injury that we talked about. It was unlimited. And again, you're still going to have that option. But if I don't want the unlimited, I'm going to have about 7 choices to make. Okay. I can keep the unlimited. If I want to reduce my unlimited to $250,000, $500,000, those are going to be options. The other 2 big options is if I have Medicaid, I'm going to be able to make a selection that is only for those who have Medicaid. And lastly, I'm going to be able to, if I have Medicare Part A and B, so for our senior citizens and those with Medicare A and B, I'm going to be able to totally opt out of personal injury protection if I want. That's going to lower that MCCA fee from $100 to 0. So I'm going to have that savings. I'm also going to have savings on the personal injury because I'm going to opt out. So I'm going to let Medicare A and B, if I have a Medicare Advantage plan, that's going to take care of my injuries if I am in an auto accident. The last part about you're going to be able to, it's really going to be important for you to figure out if you do have medical insurance. You're going to want to call them. Just take out your card, give them a call, the number on the back, whether it's Blue Cross Blue Shield or HAP or whomever you have. You're going to want to know how your personal health plan coordinates with auto insurance. So there's a couple options. It could say, I know my insurance that I have through my wife, it's primary. So if I'm in an auto accident, my Blue Cross Blue Shield plan is going to pay primary. So I'm going to have several options with my State Farm plan of what to select. You could have a situation to where you have health insurance, but they don't pay for auto accidents. Okay, so you'll just want to know that as we get into May and June, and you start making these selections on your auto insurance plan.
What does the average consumer need to do between, you talk about call your medical provider. So I'm correct to say that it's July 2nd, correct?
Yeah. July 2nd is when the bill goes into effect. Now, the way that the state law is written, these changes happen at your next renewal after July 1st. So if you are lucky enough to have a renewal that happens July 2nd, these new laws and selections will take effect in that renewal. Now, if you don't speak to your insurance company, you don't speak to your insurance agent, there are defaults that your plan is going to default to. So it's going to default to unlimited medical, same as you have today. It's going to default to $250,000, $500,000 on the bodily injury. So again, you may already have that, or that may be an increase in coverage and increase in premium for you. So you definitely want to find out, how does your health insurance coordinate with auto accidents and auto insurance? And then you want to have a conversation with your agent about your need and what coverages you want to select.
So there's definitely some potential overlap in coverages that we should be more mindful of.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, I think that the state wants options, right? Let's give consumers choice. Hopefully they make the best choice for themselves and their assets and their families. But there could be a situation, and that's what's happening now, is I may have unlimited medical, but my health insurance also provides coverage for auto accidents. So that's one of the biggest portions to save is that I'm going to be able to make a choice based on my situation. Now, the one thing I would say, Luke, is that we want to make sure that consumers know anytime you have a life event, you need to revisit this. So we've got July 2nd. We're going to introduce this. One of the big things is to make sure if I lose my job, if I switch jobs, if my company switches health plans, they go from Blue Cross Blue Shield to HAP or Priority or whomever, I need to make sure I know what that health insurance plan does with auto insurance so that I make the continual best coverages, if that makes sense.
Okay. What about someone who's self-employed? And I know those are a lot of members that make up chambers of commerce, especially Stacy's. What's a self-employed individual need to be thinking about in regard to these options? Is it typically the same or a little bit different because you also have business insurance that falls in there somewhere as well?
Yeah, good question. So a self-employed business owner or self-employed person is going to want to think about what coverage they have. And really what the important part is who's in the household and who's covered. So when we talk about personal insurance, it's who's in the household, who's on the policy, the named insured, getting a little bit of technical talk there, but who's listed on the policy, who's the family, the spouses, the kids, the extended family that's in the home. That's going to be important because you're going to want to make sure you have the right coverages there. And then to your point on businesses, they're going to want to make sure they include, depending on how their policy is written, if it's a commercial policy or a personal policy, who's driving that auto, who's going to be driving that auto, and stay in constant communication with their insurer and agent to make sure, again, that we got the right coverage at the right time as life changes.
Right. Interesting.
So what are things people should be doing now? You've got people that are home. I saw a news story a couple days ago, and it was all about spring cleaning, but not physically spring cleaning, but talking about, you should be looking at your medical coverage, check your subscriptions. Do you pay for subscription services to, Amazon Music and Netflix and Spotify, and you don't use any of them? Do you do things like that? So as people are home with a little bit more time on their hands, what are things that they should be looking for in the policy that they currently have and how they might save them some money down the road, or what they should be looking for?
Yeah, good question. I think it's a great time to just kind of do a double check and see what coverage do I have now, right? Is it the right coverage for me now? And then as we go through these changes. So, I think speaking to your agent in your insurance company, just to ask them about what options you're going to have and when, that'll be an important part because in Michigan, every insurance company files its rates and has to have it approved by the state. So everyone has filed them. We're still waiting on final approvals, just with everyone working from home and everything they're doing, right? The state's doing amazing things right now, and there's some things that are a little bit backlogged. So we want to make sure that, you talk to them about what those coverages are. And really, the biggest change is taking an assessment of who is in your home, right? And having that conversation. There's been a tendency just in life in the past to say, I don't want to, I want my rates to be I want to be covered, but I want rates to be as least as they can. But now is really the time to make sure that your company knows everyone in your household, who's there. Again, it shouldn't be a dramatic increase because there's somebody living with your home. You just want to make sure they're covered. So make sure to have that conversation about who's driving the autos because they may have coverage elsewhere. So it may not impact your rate. So I would say right now that spring cleaning is just have the conversation with your insurance company, have the conversation with your agent. Hopefully they're already reaching out to you and talking and sending you some information in the mail or email, but make sure to have that conversation so that you can see what do I need to do? Because right now you're going to need, Stacy, if I'm talking to you, Stacy, you need to call Blue Cross Blue Shield and see how does that coordinate with an auto insurer so you make the right choice when we do have the rates for your selection. So, the worst thing that could happen is if we don't know of all the household members. We don't know of how your insurance coordinates. You really need to make sure we know where you stand on assets so that we can protect them. You may be okay with state minimums, but you may need some additional protection. So it's really just good to have a holistic conversation and talk a little bit about the changes, but update us on anything that's going on in your life.
So one of the things that I've heard a lot people do, I've heard conversation about what people are doing is that because they're not driving and their cars are sitting at home, that they are discontinuing coverage and storing vehicles. Give me some thoughts and some recommendations on the pros or the cons of that.
Yeah, so I would tell you three things. One, insurance companies realize that there's less miles being driven, less accidents. So for example, State Farm is giving 30% back in premium. I know AAA and some other companies have announced that, right? So that's one thing, to realize that we realize that you're not driving as much and you're not having as many claims. Number two, different companies do have options. We have a storage option if you're not going to be driving it. We can put like some coverage on it for fire or theft and things like that, but it's not street legal and it's not intended for you to be driving it because you don't have those coverages you want. So I go back to having the conversation. Just let us know your situation and we can tell you what options we have. A lot of companies have a device that's called, we call it Drive Safe and Save, but it's a little something that goes in your car or plugs into your car, and sometimes it's used just on an app, and it can tell your driving habits, so it gives you a discount. Again, everyone who talks to me that says I want to save money, I talk to them about Drive Safe and Save and things like that, onboard programs that help you save money.
Oh shoot, I had another question that just escaped me. So Luke, I'm gonna toss to you.
No,
Luke has like 27,000 questions and I love it.
I'm really listening today because I'm thinking all the things I'm going to do after this. My renewal just came from my insurance agent on Thursday last week. So this definitely makes a lot of sense for me to go in and start to look at all of those things that, generally just pay your premium and when it comes up and you just keep moving along versus maybe it's time to step back and look at all these things. Very interesting.
For someone, if there's people out there that have lost their jobs, are struggling to pay their premiums, what are is that another conversation to have with your insurance agent as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of companies are realizing that, right? So you've got two things going on. You've got the companies realizing the situation all of our customers are in. And then you also have some, in certain states, you have some state mandates that are, talking about forbearance or mortgages or rents or cancellation of essential services like insurance, right? So if you have a conversation, again, you can figure out what your company is doing, to postpone cancellations or defer payments. And you can also really understand what the state and federal governments are doing. Most time with insurance, it's states, but there are a lot of, regulations and things to help protect consumers right now.
Yeah, you've got my wheels spinning this morning as well. Steve?
I'm good. It's for us, it's about that time of year as well. We just actually, our actual insurance agent retired from the business. So, we've been shuffled around a little bit, so we got to get back in touch with them anyway.
Well, Clint, thank you. This was really good information. I think, you and I have talked a lot about this over the last couple months, and, you hear the pros and the cons of some of these changes coming, but it's good to, hear there's steps we should all be taking in place too.
Yeah. I think the great thing is choice, right? People and consumers and Michiganders have wanted choice and wanted some relief from premium. And this puts them a little bit more in the driver's seat to control their premium. Obviously, I always advise, again, let's make sure to have the right coverage. Price is great, but when you get into an accident and you don't have the right coverage, it doesn't matter that you saved a few dollars, a couple months ago. We want to make sure to have the right coverage, but this gives another opportunity. So I applaud all those stakeholders that were involved, the chambers, the cities, the governors. This is a big undertaking.
Yeah.
We passed it last May and we're just getting ready to launch it. And, again, it's not going to be foolproof and seamless July 2nd. We're going to have some learning and hiccups and adjustments. But I know the intent is in the right place, and that's to protect Michiganders, but also save them money.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for your time.
All right, guys.
Have a great day.
You too. Enjoy your Zoom calls.
Thanks.
All right. See you guys.
Bye, Clint. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Stacy.